Okay, here's a reel that I don't see much about on YouTube, and I wanted to make this video just to show it and go over some of the features that make it unique. I think a lot of people avoid buying this reel because it's made in China. Most people are used to Abu Garcia being made in Sweden, and I think it was about 2005 they changed over to China, or foreign countries, not just Sweden. Anyway, they moved them from Sweden, and you can see that little sticker on the bottom right there. It says made in China. When they came out with the I series, I don't know what year that was, that 7000 I C3 or 7000 I anything was made in China, and the I series became synonymous with being made in China. These are also made in China, obviously, but they removed the I, probably just because of the bad publicity. All that being said, this is still a really nice reel, and I would even argue that it's probably better than the older 7000s made in Sweden. One of the features that they moved to on this is the flip lever for disconnecting the pinion gear from the spool. That lever is somewhat sealed underneath. It has a rubber washer under there. All of these screws have rubber washers underneath them, even on the left-hand side plate. The clicker system is all metal. It has a plastic inside this side plate is sort of a plastic liner that I think the clicker is attached to. The cog wheel is behind this logo, which operates the worm gear. It's actually attached to the side plate, not the plastic. And actually that plastic, if you ever hear the clicker on one of these 7000s, it's super loud because of that plastic. There's a lot of it. It's also a redesigned clicker, but you know that do this one-handed. But that plastic really helps the clicker along in the noise department. It's got instant anti-reverse. It also has an anti-reverse dog backup. It's super smooth. I'm going to put some photos in later to show some of the internal workings of the reel. And I'm not going to take the left-hand side or the right-hand side plate apart and go into any detail on that. Well, I might later. It's interesting. There's some interesting features in here. None of them that I wouldn't trust. They're really good features. Some of the unique things, or one of the unique things that I really like about this reel, is how they have placed the right hand bearing on the spindle, and it is seated when you install the spool. That bearing on the right hand side seats into a circular recess on the brake plate, and then you have a 6-pin braking system like a 6500 or 5500 or 4600, 4500. It's the same type of system, maybe a little bit larger. And then you have your adjustment over here. And the C3 has a bearing. Well, there's one bearing inside here, and then you have another bearing, like I said, it's mounted on the spool. And the cool part about that is it supports the spool or the spindle as close to the spool as possible. Instead of like the old 7000s made in Sweden, the only bearing on this end of the spool was in this right here, inside that cap. And so what you ended up with, you could end up with spindle flex when you're casting heavy weights or reeling in big fish or getting hung on a snag. And then you'll see the edge of the spool is worn from making contact with the frame because of that spindle flexing. Having those bearings and support as close to the ends of the spool as you can possibly get it add a lot of strength. It also helps the pinion gear alignment because of that bearing supporting the spindle. You end up having support at the entry point of the pinion gear, and then that spindle continues through the pinion gear and is supported in another I would say, well, it's not really a bushing on this end, it's more just a hole maybe drilled in an end cap down here. I don't know what you call that, but anyway, the end of the spindle is supported on this end, and the spindle is supported next to the spool here, so that pinion gear rides the spindle, and that keeps your gear alignment in really good shape, so your gears are going to last longer. Also, I noticed that I think this whole frame is brass, and because it's scratched on the inside and it's brass, it appears to be brass after scratching it on the inside. And let's see what else. There's the spindle that the main gear rides on, including this, I don't know what you call that right there, this brass part that the main gears sit on. You know, there's a spindle that protrudes out of the brake plate, and that spindle is stainless steel. So that's really good too. Yeah, another feature that I really like also, they went into this right here and they actually put a spring inside this pawl housing. And that spring, you gotta watch it. I put a dab of grease down in the bottom to keep that spring from just falling out when you turn it upside down, because that spring will fall out, so that's kind of bad. But at the same time, the spring serves a purpose. The way if you get trash or something in your worm gear, that pawl can be pushed down slightly to ride over that rather than getting jammed and maybe destroying your cod gear over here. It uses the same pawl you find in a 6500, which is good. This is a little flimsy feeling, you'll notice right when you get it. It seems flimsy. But I don't think they would have over-designed this and under-designed that, you know, because this is actually flimsier than the ones you get on a 6500. Now, line lay, as you can see, line lay is excellent, even though it's a little flimsy. Now, that flimsiness could have been put there for a reason, so that sometimes, you know, people reel or get their fingers stuck in here, or maybe a twig or anything like that. Anything that stops this from going back and forth will destroy your cod gear. The plastic gear in here can just rip it to shreds. So that could be a little security measure there for that. Quality material, it looks like, all the way around. 20 pounds of drag. I scratched it right here. I actually scratched it with the star on another reel. Gouged it right here. Yeah, the base plate, very solid mount. You got 4 screws holding that. And like I said, I'll put some pictures at the end of the video that you can look at, kind of see some of the internal workings. And I may make another video to show what the gear train looks like and explain some of the features in there and how this works. This is pretty interesting. It appears that it would be overly simplified. Well, it's a very simple system, and it could be a little weak because of the plastics that are involved right behind this. But now I'll give it time to find out about that. I don't think it's going to fail. And the way this operates, it actually has a cam inside of it that is built like a ramp. And when you pull this down, it turns the little ring that has a ramp on it that raises the pinion gear off of the pin that's sticking through the spindle on the spool. It's that simple. Disconnects it at that point, and this thing will cast. I mean, I've put it directly against my made in Sweden 7000, and it will outcast it even with the modifications that I've done to the old Swedish model. And this is factory. This is called Trigger Factory. I've done no modifications other than I did clean the bearings. I cleaned the grease out of. They put too much grease in it. Got grease in the brake drum. I cleaned that out. Oiled the bearings with Remington oil, which is similar to rocket fuel. And it is amazing how this thing casts, considering being, you know, I was used to the made in Sweden model, and I thought that that's just how 7000 should cast. But this thing will keep up darn near as good as my 6500 Chrome Rocket. So it is a caster. I've got 80 pound Power Pro V2 on there. It was super slick, super smooth, super strong. And the reason I did that is because I'm surf fishing with it, and you know, I like using a level one, and I don't, well, you can't run a like a low weight mono. Like, let's say you went with 15 pound, 20 pound mono, and because you were going to cast a 5-ounce sinker, you would want to use a 50 pound shock leader, and you can't get a shocker knot to pass through this without ripping it off probably. So I've run it on my old Swedish model, and it did a little damage, and I said no, I'm not even going to try it on this one. Not because it's weak or anything, just because I know it will damage it. The shocker knot will damage it. So I just went straight through with 80 pound braid. Now I can cast whatever I want to cast with it and still maintain that level one. I also like the way they bent the handle and the star drag. Like I said, it's got the anti-reverse, instant anti-reverse, plus you have the anti-reverse dog. So even though, you know, it's a shame they make them in China now, and the price point, like this one, I got it from Walmart for $149 on sale. Shipping, taxes, everything, it came to $161. That was a darn good price. That was money well spent. Now, as of 2022, if you go to the Abu Garcia website, they've raised the price of this reel to $219. That kind of puts it in a price range with a lot of other reels that may be better suited for whatever you're looking for. As far as level winds, like if you're doing heavy catfishing or maybe surf fishing and you want a level wind, there are other reels like the Saltist and maybe some of the pins that would be in that price range, maybe even cheaper. But if you're looking for the styling, and it's questionable whether or not the other reels would cast as well as this one does. I mean, the Ambassadors are known for casting distance. I haven't casted any of the level wind pin squalls or what else is it, Saltists and stuff like that. I haven't cast any of those with level wind, so I couldn't tell you how they compare. There may be some videos out there kind of showing what that's like. But yeah, it's holding up good. And like I said, I'm thoroughly impressed with it. It's hard to get. There's certain things you just cannot get anymore that's not made in China. Like this, it's a shame that they do that. They've outsourced it. I think they would have actually maintained more business with the same exact design, made in Sweden, and mark it up $100. You know, I think everybody's sick of buying from China, but at the same time, when you have no choice, all the other options are probably made in China, Malaysia, Thailand, you know, somewhere like that. Yeah, we don't have a lot of options nowadays. But I will tell you, from a design standpoint, this is a superb reel. and I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed with the purchase. Even at $219, it's still, it's probably going to last forever, you know. So I mean, if you were to say it lasted 10 years and you broke your $220 down over the 10 years, then I think you'd come out all right. So yeah, if you're looking for this size reel, if you have any questions about whether or not this will keep up with the old Swedish models, I guarantee you this will surpass the old Swedish models in most regards. One thing that was bad about the Swedish models is the thumb press button here to release the spool allowed a lot of trash to enter the gear housing, and they kind of did away with that with this lever here, and the fact that it's got a rubber washer behind it, somewhat sealing at least particles from getting into the gear train. It keeps that from happening, and a lot of water that, you know, like a saltwater splash from a wave or riding on a boat or something, you don't really have to worry about that. Submerging it, you know, you're still going to get a lot of water in there. So hope this answers some questions. Like I said, I'll put some photos at the end of the video. Check them out. You'll get to see some of the internals. Hope you enjoyed watching. I'll catch you next time with hopefully some more good information. Thanks for watching.